Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, okay. So we're live.
Yep.
Sweet.
We're live.
Okay. I was expecting more. But cool. We are joined by a longtime friend of mine and a not quite as longtime friend of Team MBS Media, but one of the what I call the draft and college football cognoscenti, my friend Montel Hardy. And I just want to let you know, friends, neighbors, all the ships in sea, children of all ages, there ain't no party like a Montel Hardy party, because a Montel Hardy party don't stop. Montel Hardy is here with us tonight, people.
Of course.
You are welcome.
Thank you so much, Bill, and I really appreciate the introduction. It's been a pleasure to do this with you today, and it's been a while. It really has.
Yep.
It's been too long.
Yep.
We definitely gotta make these things happen more often. And then the other thing, we've also been knowing each other for a while, so I'm just so glad that. Actually, what's it, 2020? Yeah, I'd say it's been about 10 years now, man.
It's been about 10 years.
Yeah, more or less. So just, a pleasure to talk football with you again. And also got to give you your flowers, my guy. I mean, Bill is essentially the Satchel Paige of draft Twitter, if you will. I mean, this man has been killing it for years, you know what I'm saying? And so
Satchel Paige.
The Satchel Paige, man. This guy's been killing it for years, you know what I mean?
So Greg, that makes you Casey Stengel. If we're using the
analogy.
Yeah. Since I'm old enough to remember Satchel still pitching, but okay.
Yeah.
So just wanted to shout out, show you guys some love, Bill. You're phenomenal talent. It's great to be talking with you guys today.
Well, the pleasure is ours. It is a real gift, and you've worked in football for real. You've worked in football in a real way. You've helped to evaluate talent in a real way. You've helped teams to figure out what kind of players they want and why. And draft season is, well, for some teams, draft season is already upon us, but for most of the teams in the NFL, draft season will soon be upon them. Championship week is important for multiple reasons. Some pride, prestige, all that good stuff. Money, right? Money plays a part in it. As if ever you want to know why something's happening in America, check money, just if you're ever confused about what's happening. And last but certainly not least, some young person, some player, and even some non-players are going to position themselves for chances to be professionals, beyond what they're going to do at the collegiate level based on what happens during championship week. There's going to be a lot of things that will happen. SMU, as was mentioned previously, should not be an unknown quantity to people. I mean, SMU, of course, for those of us who are old enough, was a powerhouse program at one point. Because they were a smaller program in the earlier iteration of them in the old Southwestern Conference, when Coach Bill Meeks, shout out to people who are really into like offensive nerding out. If you're into offensive nerding out, try to get a hold of one of those SMU playbooks from the late 1950s or early 1960s, because people talk about people being ahead of their time. Coach Meeks, when he had Dandy Don Meredith, who most of us know as a broadcaster, but some people remember as a collegian. My father remembered him as a collegian, and of course, some remember as a professional quarterback. But a lot of things that we call the modern spread offense, he was doing a lot of those things. Going 3 wide a lot, 4 wide, not much, but 3 wide a lot, 4 wide occasionally, and running the quarterback, but not in, an option kind of way, but in a, quarterback sweep, quarterback power, a lot of draws. Meredith, though he wasn't exactly a freak athlete, I think you might be fair to say, he was athletic enough, particularly at the college level, that he was able to pick up a fair amount of yardage. So all this to say that SMU has been a competitive program on and off for many, many years, had that great, if illegal, that great run, which now, we look back now, it's kind of quaint, just bags of cash, how quaint. But, they had that great run in the 80s, and I remember Coach Meyer, and I remember, the bidding war for these players. And I'm a teenager at the time, but we knew right? Even then, even in the 80s, we knew that when all of a sudden this kid who's from a very poor background shows up with this beautiful automobile on their first day of school, something's up, right? And then their mom and their dad, or their mom and their mom's boyfriend, or whoever it is, all show up with matching cars.
And new jobs and a place to live and all that other good sort of stuff that was going on. Oh, and that doesn't happen at all today. No, not at all, kids. No.
Oh, it's so amazing. I think the one thing that's just so miraculous to me about it is, not only are these, families so fortunate to just, have all these nice items appear out of nowhere, but sometimes these automobiles resemble the primary color of the school they just happen to go, right? I mean,
awesome.
Derrick Henry just happened to have a crimson red Charger, right? Like, oh my goodness, what are the odds, right? I mean, there can't be anything fishy about that, right, Bill? Okay, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And in the old days, now, once again, this goes back to the days that Greg probably remembers quite well, and I barely remember, but I remember back when there was no rule against these summer jobs that players would have working for boosters who often own car dealerships, right? What a perfect marriage. And so some of these young people would have jobs promoting, let's say it's a Chrysler dealership, promoting the new line of Chryslers by driving a new Chrysler around town. And that would be their job, and they would get paid to do it.
Yep.
Nice. Nice work if you can get it. But this is not our memory lane show. We'll do a memory lane show someday where we compare and contrast, college football of 60, 70 years ago, college football of 20, 25 years ago, and now. Just to sort of talk about what has and has not changed. We're going to talk about this upcoming week. This week is already happening, really. This is a big week for all the reasons we talked about previously: prestige and money, but also bragging rights. But also, since the tectonic plates have shifted so dramatically in college football, some of the teams we're seeing are playing in conferences they may not be in a few years from now. And, the Pac-12 was going to rise again, apparently. And some of the schools we see in the Mountain West are going to set sail, or at least metaphorically, west to the Pac-12. College football, for better or worse, is now a shifting sands, right? Don't get too attached to certain teams and certain conferences. But I want to start with Greg, my co-host, for the moment. What is your favorite championship week storyline, or who got here, how they got here? Which one fascinates you the most?
SMU, obviously, going to the ACC title game is fantastic.
Yep.
Now, of course, I'm watching a big blue football field currently with some losers that Brock apparently went. That loser school that Brock went to, UNLV.
Oh.
Brock. Yeah, hey, Brock, how are you? And they're going to get a beating from the Boise State Broncos. But the SMU going out to Charlotte to play Clemson is going to be a very, very key game here because of the way that the board fell this week.
Yep.
If Clemson beats SMU, does SMU fall out of this playoff? What? I'm just like, no. How can SMU, with just the one loss this year, fall out of this playoff? Right. But if Clemson wins, that means that another 3-loss team could also go out of the playoff, and that 3-loss team is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, see, this really hurts me because I don't like Dabo Swinney.
Correct.
I'm not a fan of Dabo.
You are not.
And just, but do I agree that Alabama should be in this thing? No, I don't.
No.
I don't agree, even though they have to come up to South Bend, Indiana and get their butts kicked in real weather. Oh, that'll be so much fun. And I don't care which SEC team it is that comes up there. I want them to come and play a winter football game. Yeah, come on, boys.
Well, as has been mentioned, Alabama's not even the best 3-loss team in the SEC. So
no, South Carolina, who's got the better. You're Alabama, and you lose to Vanderbilt, and you lose to big time to Oklahoma.
yes.
You're gone. You're gone compared to the South Carolina losses. No, you're gone.
No, South Carolina's a better team than Alabama this year. I don't think that's really even a controversial statement.
No. And again, though, because of the way that this whole thing has always been, it's all set up for the SEC and the Big Ten. That's what it is. The other two conferences get their goodies as well, but it's really between the Big Ten and the SEC. Well, I want this to be settled on the football field, not by the marketing guys and everybody else, blah, 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 the ESPNs and all their billions of dollars that they're throwing into this. Let's settle it on the football field.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't mind the quote unquote play-in game, which, I understand that, we went to 12 to avoid people needing something like this. But if you want to have a showdown game, a rematch between South Carolina and Clemson or whatever, which would sell tickets for those who hadn't heard, you would not have trouble finding a place to play and filling it with people and someone to broadcast it if you wanted to do that. Now, I'm kidding, or at least half kidding when I say this, but no matter what, if we could literally go basketball style and have 68, have a play-in and have 64 teams, and still there'll be controversies. I get that. But this year particularly, when there is no truly dominant program, except possibly Oregon, and then it's Oregon and everyone else, right? Every other team clearly can be beaten and has been beaten. And every other team has a weakness, like a clear weakness. Like, so you can point to it and say, oh, they're not good at X. So this is not the year to claim that the SEC should have, a bunch of schools with shaky records. Like, this is not the year for that. There will be years when you might be able to make that argument, right? If LSU and Alabama were just amazing and their losses were only to each other, Ole Miss and Georgia, right? Yep. And the SEC as a whole was just out here smashing, right? Just destroying everything in its path. I could kind of sort of see this whole, hey, get Alabama in argument, whatever. But I've watched Alabama. That's why it's not working on me. I watched. And their line play, even in the quote unquote down years, you watch Alabama's line play and say, oh, yeah, man, if only they had a quarterback, if only they had a whatever it is, the thing they're missing.
Yep.
But that's while Jalen Milroe's gotten a lot of flack, he's not the problem. They've won with much worse quarterbacks than Jalen Milroe in the past. The issue is their offensive and defensive lines are just good. Solid.
I think with that, that's true. I think Alabama was solid, not just solid, they were elite. Everywhere else, the years they had, Greg McElroy, they had, they had 1 year. What was his name? Jeff Sims, Blake Sims.
They had Brody Croyle, Jeff Sims 1 year. They had John Parker Wilson. I mean, they've had all a who's who of who has managed to take the field, and they managed to win.
Yeah, I agree. But the only thing I'd say is just that from a mental aspect, I would say that.
Turn your camera on there, Montel.
Oh, give me 1 second. I got a little issue here. It'll take a second. But from a mental aspect, I think maybe he's not as good of a reader of coverage as some of these past Alabama quarterbacks. I think Milroe, it's unfortunate to say, he's kind of more that stereotype at quarterback people think of, when they think of the African-American quarterback. He's closer to that, unfortunately. And he can't really make the nuanced projections. And then the ball security is pretty bad, too. So I think one thing they did find with him was that, keep it on the ground, run more. You can, they gashed Louisiana State that way. So they beat LSU like that. They can probably maybe beat Notre Dame that way. But if he has to put it in the air 40 times, I'm going to tell you that might be a loss.
Good luck trying to run against the Irish. Good luck.
Well, here we talked about this earlier. I mean, against the nerds, right? Against Vanderbilt, the team that lined it up and just ran it at you wasn't Alabama. It wasn't Alabama just shoving the ball down someone's throat.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable to get beat like that. It's really your own game, right? Like, I mean, that's
Yep.
really what you do, and it's unbelievable.
And again, to see how high Tech, how high they still have Georgia after that game against Georgia Tech. I'm sorry, Georgia Tech beat those Bulldogs. It was a stupid penalty call that allowed Georgia to stay in that game. That ball was tipped. There's no pass interference on that play. Therefore, boom, they were done. They were beat.
Yep. They had them dead to rights. They absolutely
Yep.
did.
Yep.
I think the overtime was still fun to watch, even though I think it's always ironic, right? Had they played actual football, there's no way it went to 8 overtimes. But, I do think Georgia Tech has them beat. Haynes King was ridiculous that night. It was just one of those spooky college football nights where, you just kind of maybe lose to a team like that. I thought they were certainly going to lose to Georgia Tech. I feel bad for them that just didn't go their way.
Yeah,
and this whole timeout thing that Kirby Smart was doing every overtime here, and these special plays. What's so special? You're inside the 5-yard line. You practice this every damn week, boys.
Mm-hmm.
You use your plays that you use when you're ready to go for 5 yards. You don't need a special play. That is stupid.
Well, it's because it's just one play there. You know what I mean? It's just how do you want to go out? Do you want to go out, falling just short on inside zone, or would you want to go out with maybe like a triple option kind of spread option look? You know what I mean? That's what it is.
Right. But which one are you better at? Right. I mean, I think that's what Greg's driving at.
That's true. That's very true.
The defense has to be out there for goal line stands every week. So the offense has plays that they run every week against a defense. It's theirs, blah, blah, blah. Right. Why do you need a special play for a 2-point conversion? It is stupid.
If you get a certain look, I can kind of understand it. But I tried pitching when I was, much younger, playing Little League Baseball. And one of the things I was told is don't get beat with your second best pitch. Right. If it's a key situation, I don't know. I don't care if everyone in the stadium and everyone on the field knows what pitch is coming. Don't get beat with your second best pitch. Right. Don't get beat with the pitch that's almost your best pitch. Get beat with your best pitch. Get beat with your best pitch. So whatever your best pitch is, whatever your best play is, even if everyone knows it's coming, I mean, think about what we just saw the Detroit Lions do. At times, they were running plays that I know the defense knew was coming. And the defense, everyone knew was coming, but they couldn't stop it. Yeah. Just because you know something's coming doesn't mean you can stop it. It had been proven to us that Georgia could not hold up against those a quarterback lead draw gave them so much trouble. It's literally a play I ran when we were 9. As 9-year-olds, we ran quarterback lead draws.
But
right?
They were getting beat through the air by Haynes King. I mean, he was over. He was over the linebackers in between the safeties constantly to his receivers. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. If Hayes King, there's my man. If Hayes King were going to get invited to New York, which he won't, unfortunately, but that would have been the night that would have done it for him. And he had that kind of performance. He was the best player on the field, and I was a little sorry, that as we all were, that when you outplay a team that thoroughly, it doesn't always equate to victory, and that's why coaches yell all the time about the little things, right? About the details.
Yep.
Well, it's even go back to the fake punt that was taken away from Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. That was a legit play. It was done correctly. Marcus Freeman was right on the money, and the ACC officials had to say that after that game. This is the stupid thing about the games that drive everybody insane is the piss poor officiating. Well, that's the biggest issue that you have out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think, to borrow a line, one of my favorite lines from the movie Big Short, it's like, if you can tell me the difference between what fraud and incompetence, I have my wife's brother arrested right now. You know what I'm saying?
Bingo.
I think
Bingo.
it's one of those things, just throwing it out there. DraftKings is immensely popular. I think there's a lot of people, that won't throw the flag because it's devastating to their own personal, parlays or whatever they have going on, if we're being honest. So, yeah.
And here's, once again, I want to remind people, this is a part-time job. These people are doing whatever else it is they do, or they're dentists, or they're selling insurance, or they're high school principals, whatever it is, much of the year. If we truly want to fix it, we create a full time, you get paid year round when you're not working, you're training, where it's a workforce, an actual workforce. Mm-hmm. And that way you can weed out some of the stuff we're seeing. If it's your job, it's not a glamorous hobby. It's not some cool thing your friends kind of ooh and ah about when you show them the pictures. It's your gig. And you're graded on it the same way other people are graded on jobs, real jobs that they have, where you can get promoted or fired based on performance. Then you'll fix not all, but most of this once it's a real job.
Yep.
Well, the NFL tried with 17 full-time officials, and did their officiating improve at all? Not really.
What year?
I would disagree somewhat with that statement. I do believe the quality of officiating has gone up. Now, is it where we want it to be? No, but it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when the NFL had hired their 17 full-time officials,
when was that?
Oh, that's back in the 2010s here.
Okay.
They hired 17 full-time officials, and did it improve everything? No. Because again, you had all these other part-timers still out in the field, et cetera, et cetera. It is true.
But that kind of proves my point, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at, though, right? It was because of the part-time officials and even the instant replay guys. I mean, come on. I don't need Gene Steratore or the other clown Ferreira. You guys couldn't get it right when you were on the field.
Yeah, and then you put them in I mean, what a sweet gig that is, right? You get
it is the sweetest of
watch
gigs.
Your colleagues and people under you screw up and say, "Yep, they blew this one." I mean, you don't say it that way, of course, but I mean, that is a sweet gig.
It is the sweetest of gigs.
And with those refs, I mean, I'm just saying you got to look at it because I have a friend. I personally, don't do the gambling thing. It feels just like you're flushing money away. That's why I don't do it. But I have friends that do it. One of them does it. I guess he's real good because he still does it after so many years. And he was just saying, he goes out, he gets food, he eats, and then if his parlay hits, it's like he paid for the food he ate. You know what I mean? And I think for some of these referees, they get out here to these games. They say, okay, whatever, I have a side business. I make this amount much doing it. I get paid enough to, come out here and do something. But if I take, half of that, right, and I put it on, this team to cover, I'm pretty sure, you pretty much tripled whatever it is you're supposed to make that, so just something to think about. I mean, the temptation's right there, Can you imagine? You got a job that pays you twice. I don't want to go too. We might have and
I don't want you to because
we'll be in trouble.
I don't want to go. We'll have our most successful and our least successful show all at the same time. Big old cease and desist letter from the old NCAA. But I do believe that there's solutions to be found, and I'll leave it at that. Yeah. I think that this mishmash of, the way it's being handled, where it feels amateurish in every way, but the stakes, right? Everything about it, everything else about it feels amateurish.
Yeah.
At some point, you gotta just, be in it. You're in it or you're out of it. You're either fish. You can't be, neither fish nor fowl. You got to pick something. Either this is for fun and character building athletics to help young men develop, blah, 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 or it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? And you got to decide which one you're going to commit to it being.
Yeah, and that's going to involve with paying the workforce. I'm sure they'll get there, right? I mean, we're talking about revenue share from players. I'm sure there'll be something if they, hopefully they see something for referees in the future. And then, I think there should be a little bit more for recruiting staff as well. But invite me to the philosophical college discussion that you guys have
Ooh,
whenever you guys
oh,
have it. Yeah,
we
that'd be
will
a good
do a
off-season
full-on
topic.
round table. There's
Yeah.
some
Well,
coaches.
I'll tell you what, because the NCAA is supposed to be for a student athlete. They need to be students first and foremost. I don't care if you're an NIL kid or you're a transfer portal or what have you. If your grades don't have a certain number behind them, you're not allowed to transfer. You're done. Don't think that you get to play football as the way that you get to go forward in this world. No, you're there to study and learn.
I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly. And that's why I think we really need to discuss this on a larger level because there's schools
We
that
are
just
going to
don't
have
do
to
it that
do a
way.
whole
Yeah,
show on.
schools, unfortunately, they just don't do it that way, but they need
No,
to.
no,
I think
sir.
school is very important, but it's one of these things where, athletics and academics just naturally, there's always going to be friction, and it's unfortunate.
It is
Yeah.
a 100+ year story. I was doing a bunch of research for something I was writing about, and I found a scandal at Pitt from like literally the turn of the 19th into the 20th century about, players who weren't even like actual students, like,
who were playing for Pitt, and then he went and played for a different school in the Carolinas.
Yep.
Right.
This is happening 100+ years ago. So,
and then he went back. Then he went back to Pitt again.
Yes.
So I
Correct.
mean, this stuff has always gone on, right?
Well over 100 years ago, we've had this pull. But back to what's happening in the present. Thank you for going down the college football history rabbit hole with us. Hey, I love that stuff. Like I would do a whole show on it. But we have this tipping point right now in the current state of college football, where it's the best of times and the worst of times, right? There's more opportunities, there's more money, there's more viewers, there's more sponsors, there's more, everything's coming up, money. But there's also a bunch of young people who have entered the transfer portal, and probably conservatively, I'll say 1,400 of them won't even have when the music stops, will not have a place to sit, right?
No place.
Probably not in. Well, yeah, it depends on what level. Probably not an FBS, not a,
Well, I'm adding like FCS, FBS, and D2 kids all together, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. There'll certainly be people left out, 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's no real guidance or counseling given. When someone says, hey, I want to enter the transfer portal, there's no advisory committee that says, hey, here's how college football coaches see you. Here's, you might want to consider, Nebraska Kearney, right? If they come calling, you might want to.
UW Whitewater, UW.
Right, you might.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I know what all your friends on the Instagram feed told you about where you should be looking, but a panel of 24 coaches or retired coaches, administrators, whatever, how you want to do it, have looked at your tape, have talked to other coaches, and here's what might be a little more your speed.
Exactly. Now, one thing I did see, and I don't know how this goes, is that there is going to be some roster expansion in terms of scholarships going on, and that could phase out the traditional sense of your walk-on, right? Your walk-on is a guy who understands he'll probably never go pro and not even have a chance. But he boosts the team GPA, right? He works hard. He gives you a good look on scout team, and then he goes and does an internship, in the summer, right? So
I've been that guy.
Right, and nothing's wrong with that guy. That guy is a great guy. That guy is cool. I've seen that guy. The women still like him too. He's in good shape, right? So I think that's going to change. But the thing about it is, some of those transfer kids that get left out, they might have a chance to do that. I think the financial part of it is different though, because you can get those guys on some kind of scholarship now. Usually the walk-on is a guy that pays his way. So that's another thing where academically you're like, really? Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's just another thing.
It was always a great story to see a kid who was a walk-on be given a scholarship by the coach.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing to see.
Heartwarming, all that good stuff.
But again, this whole capitulation by the NCAA to allow this transfer over what was in place before, where you would have to sit out a year, because of you were a junior hardship, you could declare for the draft, and that's only then, blah blah blah. All that stuff has now changed. The NCAA has gone full bore into the big business world, and if these schools do plan on having their $20 million a year NIL deal, they owe the rest of these colleges $1 million each. You gotta pay for those other guys to stay competitive with you. You cop up another. You got $20 million to spend on NIL. You can come up with $1 more million so that Miami of Ohio can compete with a player just like you do at Ohio State.
Hey, Greg's gone full revenue sharing. Well, okay.
I am full revenue share.
Yeah, one thing I saw from Twitter from a vendor, he's a vendor in the college football space. He's pretty good. And he was saying, he promoted the idea of maybe there should be a transfer tax, as in if you are the good old NIU Huskies and you groom an excellent player at any position, right? 1 year and then
we're going soccer with it. Okay.
Yeah. 1 year, 2 years, and this guy says, hey, you know what? I think I can go a little bit further south and start for the Illini. I'm going to do that. Well, you know what? Illinois owes me money now. We took that talent in. We took a risk on him when Illini didn't want to offer him. We developed that talent. We paid for his visit. Let's say this kid's from Florida, right? We paid for his visit, which is not cheap at all. And, we want some of that money back. We want to get, and I think on some level, because with these super conferences we're building, some of these guys that are left out, everybody wants to play on the big stage. It seems like it's a feeder system into some of these super conferences if you excel at the highest levels in a conference like the MAC or something like that. So,
yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think that's in order.
Broncos, by the way, have a 7-0 lead on those Running Rebels. I'm sorry, Brock. I really am.
I can tell it's tearing you up inside, Greg.
Oh, yeah. Well, I used to tease Brock all the time because, the Taco Bell, the fan thing that they have every year for the NCAA, the fan section, I used to sell. You were the one guy that blocked UNLV from winning the award, Brock. You were the one. and now look at them. Now that you're not going to school there anymore, Brock, your school's doing so much better than when you were there. It's just so much fun.
Yep.
So on that rather happy note, as Brock takes total strays, we do have other games that'll be played to decide championships in other conferences. The ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the MAC, the aforementioned MAC, as well as you're going to see the Mountain West. Well, the Mountain West is happening, but the Pac-2 isn't really having one, I guess. But I guess there's kind of already happened, really. I guess.
Yeah.
Well, the other game going on is the AAC championship.
The AAC,
and Army does have the 7-0 lead over Tulane. So.
Yeah, their quarterback is essentially Captain America. Like I'm in shock. I have never seen an Army quarterback that athletic, who can throw, who can run.
I am so excited about Bryson. In another era, this guy is a Heisman Trophy finalist, right? If the year is 1964 instead of 2024, he's at least in New York. He might win the darn thing. With an undefeated Army squad. The world has changed a little bit because that guy would have at least been a Heisman finalist back in the old days and possibly a winner. He's having a monster year. I hope he gets invited to one of the good all-star games when his time comes so we can get an idea of what he can be. Obviously, he's going to be asked to change positions, but to what? Like strong safety a la Scott Frost? Like, I wonder what he becomes.
Yeah, I think they're going to look at him almost like he's Jordan Lynch. They may put him at running back, but I don't know. I don't know what else this kid can do. I should have looked more at his high school tape, but I don't know. He's interesting. I'll say that.
He's interesting. He's got change of direction. He's got real power in his lower body.
Yes.
And he passes the ball well enough, not enough to be a quarterback, but well enough to be I don't want to say Taysom Hill because that's a bit rich, but a
not quite
lower
Taysom
middle
Hill,
class version, a lower middle class version, a Tuck Pointers version of Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I like it. I think a poor man's Taysom Hill sounds about right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, of course,
so, yeah.
we do know that the last Academy member to get a Heisman Award was from the Navy, not from the stupid Army, okay?
Oh, I knew that was coming. Yes, I know. Joe Bellino just a few years before that, and then, of course, Captain Comeback Roger Staubach. Yes, I'm all too aware. But we now have, no offense to either Air Force or Navy, we now have a team that is, no longer undefeated, obviously. They lose the game. But a team that looks like they're going to be a one-loss team. They're obviously going to be left out in the quote-unquote cold in terms of the playoff. I think, based on what I saw Vanderbilt do to some people, the assumption that Army would not be able to beat some of these SEC schools seems silly to me. Because did I not just see Vanderbilt hammer, not just win, hammer, embarrass, humble, pick a term, right? Alabama bent the knee to the Commodores, my friends. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
So I'm a little sad, obviously, that Army won't get a chance to show what they could have done. But mark my words, whoever sees them in the bowl season is in for a full day's work. Whoever you are, you're in for a full day's work.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely happy for that staff, too. I know it's been a tough going, the previous year. They've had some transfers, had some guys in. They made the course. I'm really glad it's working out.
Okay, so let's go to these big games tomorrow. We got SMU versus Clemson at Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Who wins that game, Montel?
I want to reiterate that I don't like Dabo Swinney, but he's found something with this team that he can beat people with. I don't buy the Cade Klubnik stock. I don't buy it. Okay, no. I would short him absolutely. It's just one of those things where I think they're tough enough up front. They do have a running game that's strong, and the defense is always going to make enough plays. So they're just going to be there, and I think that there's a chance they may be a little too much for SMU tomorrow. I think that's the truth. I think should they go further and play, some of the better teams in the country, I think they will absolutely lose to them. But I like them. Maybe a 7-point, we'll say 7-point victory. I don't know. Decently high scoring, maybe 30-23, something like that. Yeah, I think Clemson will take this one. I think the running back goes for probably 150 yards, and I think Cade might add you about 50 of his own. It might be one of those kind of days.
Yeah, what do you think, Bill?
My heart says SMU, and of course, a good friend of both of ours helped build that SMU squad. Before going to even greener, before going to even greener and julepier pastures, but God, I hate to agree with you, but I just think that they beat them up front a little bit. Yeah, I think it's even closer than 7, though. I think it's a nail biter. I think it goes down to the very, very end. And I can just see, Cade Klubnik on like a broken play, running it in from the 11, and Dabo, takes the field, tears pouring down his face. Somehow nobody believed in them, and then has a biblical quote.
Yeah, I'm saying giving all the glory to God, right? Nothing's wrong with that. What Dabo does is always unbelievable.
No. You two guys are both wrong. SMU is going to win this game by 10 points.
I want you to be right, Greg.
I hope you're right. Yeah.
I want to be wrong on this so hard, Greg, and I want you to be right.
Because that Pitt game, that Pitt game.
Although, as I was saying to Montel earlier, if Clemson wins this game, they go to the playoff because they won the ACC title. What school gets kicked out?
I think you have to see who else loses, honestly, right? I mean, to me, like if Boise State loses today, right, everything's kind of figured out. If they somehow lose today, everything's it's taken care of. Nobody has to go home from that game anyway, the Clemson game. But I think if Clemson wins and everyone else wins, I think SMU is out because you can't beat Clemson. You certainly, honestly, you certainly can't beat those other guys, near certainty anyway. And I think maybe like an Ole Miss gets in. Yeah.
Shout out to Alex again. Okay, so
Alex giveth, Alex taketh away.
Alex give it, Alex take it away. Yeah, I agree with Montel. I would love to see somebody who's not a 3-loss SEC school benefit somehow from this. Like I keep in my mind trying to spin this in such a way that somebody who's not another 3-loss SEC school benefits. Like who can I shoehorn in
until last week when Tulane lost, that was going to be the team that could have gone into this playoff.
Yeah,
was Tulane.
You're looking at what, maybe like a South, or no, you said 9 3-loss SEC team. Well, then
I mean, I'm trying to find one that isn't. Now, if I had to choose one, it would be
BYU, right? You got a BYU. You got well, no, Miami's already. Yeah, you got BYU, and then you got Illinois. That's a 3-loss Big Ten team. How about that? Huh?
now, if the SEC people would lose every bit of their minds if something like that happened. Every bit.
Yeah. Love it. I would personally love it because that conference has too much. That conference has way too much pull in all of this stuff, as does the Big Ten.
I agree that if you're gonna have this many teams in, yeah, I agree. You might as well try something, different, right?
Yeah,
I agree. I don't know if they do it, and this is the thing too. I think if you're gonna have this many teams, you don't need an actual playoff committee. The computers can figure it out. I like it.
Well, I mean, with their argument for Alabama coming into this to this playoff with their 3 losses already, it is just that was so sickening to listen to the man from that school up north who's the chair of the committee. Do you know what that school up north is, Montel?
Up north. Well, where? You must mean IU, right? Is that where you're at?
Oh no. The defending national champions are that school.
Yeah, he means that school up north.
Oh, gotcha. The other school up north. Gotcha.
The school that actually deserves the next death penalty from the NCAA for all their cheating. Yeah. No. Come on, Bill. You know I'm being honest about this.
Once again, this is a point in the show where I point out that the thoughts, feelings, and expressions of one Greg, Cowboys fan, do not express the policies, the feelings, the corporate stances of one Team MBS Media. I would like to see the sanctions be more than a slap in the wrist. I'm agreeing with you. But they said they'll never do. It's sort of like with the Old and New Testament, Greg. They said they'll never do that again, right? They already said that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They said that never again.
I'm an Old Testament guy. And
yeah, you are.
The rule that I live in, that school up north should be banned for a decade, just like SMU was. Gone.
I'm not opposed to it. I feel bad that Coach Shamar would have to hold the bag. I like to see guys like him make it. But what they did there, and that's another thing. You guys have probably covered that topic to death, but they certainly did wrong there. People that have played, people that have been on the sidelines, they know what happens there. People, as someone that's worked in a recruiting office, I know that they have the bandwidth to do that during the regular season because there's not a lot of recruiting stuff going on. So, you can make some guy out to be crazy and he did this on his own, whatever, look at your previous records before all that.
It was done under the one man's direction. The guy's now the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, and he's the bum that belongs in prison for what he did. I don't care. He belongs
in prison. I
agree. It's just unbelievable that he gets away with it. Not only is it unbelievable that he gets away with it, it's unbelievable that he was punished while there for one game and everyone thought it was the end of the world. That was insane. Coach Shamar was crying. Everyone's like, what? He was gone for one game. That's unbelievable.
He had to
like the
watch.
whole world is
He had to
like,
watch from
Well,
his.
he had to watch earlier in the season. He set himself down because, of course, Michigan's schedule that year absolutely was against nobodies. So Sharon Moore got his first few games there, and then he got the 1-game punishment. What a joke! What an absolute joke! If Ron Meyer was still coaching today, and he saw what Jim Harbaugh was doing, are you kidding me?
Ron Meyer would be mad at himself for not having done it big enough.
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't I come up with this?
exactly.
I was cheating all wrong. But
Yeah.
but back to the games. So yes, the Big Ten championship will be decided. I'll start once again with our guest Montel. Tell me about what things do you think will decide that game, and how you see that game playing out.
Okay, just a quick check here. I don't have it's Oregon, Ohio State. Is that
Penn State. Penn State.
Oh, Oregon, Penn State.
Oregon,
Penn
yeah.
State.
Right. Ohio State cleverly found a way to avoid having to face Oregon.
Yeah, if they lose to them twice, you can definitely say they shouldn't go to the playoffs. So now they secured their spot by losing, right? Which is somehow
brilliant. Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Three-dimensional chess, my friend.
Yeah. And I think the funny thing here is that if you're Penn State, you got to win this game. Because with the bracket staying as it is, they have a very smooth path to pretty much the semifinals. I believe it would be Boise State and potentially
the winner of the.
Let me. I'm gonna take a quick peek here. I think it would be Boise State and then the winner of. Shoot, give me 1 second.
The winner.
My brother was so mad when he saw it. That's why I know. Oh yeah. So get this. It would be the winner of, or no, if they stay where they're at, they get to play Arizona State, and then they play Boise State. So that's a lovely situation for a guy like James Franklin, who gets a chance to rewrite the narrative, right? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, this is a guy who he's had several talented teams, but this is probably the talented team because he actually has a quarterback there that people believe in. And this was the year to beat Ohio State. They did not get it done. So,
and that game shocked me because the OC for Penn State, the new guy,
yeah,
Tyler Warren had more rushing yards than Nick Singleton. Nick Singleton had more receiving yards than Tyler Warren. Are you kidding me? How in the hell do you do this?
Sometimes you go
are you asking
self-scouting?
right. So Greg wants to know, why did he accept the Arthur Smith challenge? Is that what you want to know?
Well, basically that's what that game looked like to me, because I mean Penn State was up 10-0, and then their defense went to sleep for 2 straight series where Ohio State at 14-10.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the hell was Tyler Warren in the passing game? He didn't catch a ball in the first half.
Yep.
You're right. Yep. I think there was an issue there. I do.
Yeah, and while I understand you don't want to quote unquote force the ball, I remember what was the name of the coach at Marshall when they had Randy Moss? It wasn't Doc Holliday. It was one before Doc Holliday. Oh my gosh, I can see him in my mind.
So Doc coached Marshall twice. Did not know that. Okay.
What was his name? It'll come back to me. But they asked him about that, about why do you sort of
force the ball to Randy?
Right, force the ball to Randy Moss. He said because he's Randy Moss. That was his answer. It's Randy Moss.
That was Bob Pruitt.
Thank you, Bob Pruitt. He said because he's Randy Moss. He said, I will never have this opportunity again. Do you think I'm going to get a chance to coach another Randy Moss?
Exactly. You want to get all those. I 100% agree with that. To answer the question though,
and prayers up to Randy, who's now not going to be on the air for a little while here. Prayers up to Randy.
Definitely, yeah. Prayers up for Randy Moss. I know he has to step away from ESPN for a bit. Something with his eyesight, of course. Well wishes to him and his family. It's a tough situation. I hope he gets better.
Yep.
But to answer your question, as far as who wins the game, I'm going to say it's Penn State. I think Oregon, they've been riding high the whole year. I think Dylan Gabriel's great. He's one of those guys. I'm not a big transfer quarterback guy, but for him, I mean, it's magic, right? I mean, he's been doing this for so long. The system fits so well; it's just perfect. But I think he's going to be challenged a little bit today. I think Penn State's defense, the pass rush, some of the things they do. I think Penn State's also going to try to punch them in the mouth up front. Singleton and just that offense, they're going to try to dominate time of possession a little bit and kind of put them in a tight situation. I think it's a must win for Penn State. I think they win it. I think it's very, very close. I think this one will be a 4-quarter game right up until the very end. I think maybe Gabriel maybe throws a pick there late or there's a fumble and Penn State kind of puts themselves in position for a really good chip shot field goal or a punch it in touchdown. So. I got Penn State in this one, and I think this works out good for everybody. So.
We're lucky Monty's not watching the show now, Bill, because because Monty, of course, is a huge Oregon Ducks fan.
He is the biggest Oregon Ducks fan, yes.
Nice.
I mean, he is Oregon, and I'm going to be on tomorrow night with the Last Word, covering the championship weekends here with Monty and Bill with the boss. No, the boss, Joe.
Oh. Mm-hmm. I may have to come through for that.
You might have to be watching.
I may have to come through for that. Oh man. Oregon has two things I've noticed about Oregon. One is they are very well coached, right? I mean, I don't think that's really breaking news. Dan Lanning and his staff are very, very good. And very, very good.
And shout out to my guy, Amit Terry, the offensive line coach, who's done a phenomenal job to him.
They've done right. And frankly, I hope he should be a finalist for the Frank Broyles Award. If he isn't, there's something wrong with that. Here's the thing things that do worry me. When they aren't able to force mistakes from the other team, it gets interesting, right? Most teams make mistakes against them. I mean, college players make mistakes, but I mean, like they force mistakes, they get mistakes, they can create situations where mistakes happen. And Drew L.R. was mentioned earlier. He's one of the more talented Penn State quarterbacks that they've had. And I know people sort of bristle at being asked to manage a game or be called game managers or whatever, but Penn State's good enough that they don't have to do a lot, right? If he just keeps the ball in the fairway and you putt for par, they can be right there at the end, like you said, for that strip sack, for that tip ball interception, for that whatever. Yep. But they've got to have a clean run. Yep. No fumbles, no interceptions, no muffed punts, no stupid penalties, no giving them extra downs when you've got them at 3rd and 17. None of that. They have to have their cleanest game in probably decades, to be perfectly honest. But if you just go talent, and go by position, it's like, right? If you ignore the other stuff and just say, which guy, if I were drafting a football team, which guy would I take? You see how close a game this should be. Penn State may even have a slight edge in total talent. Mm-hmm. And that's why you said what you said about James Franklin. It is a chance to rewrite all the things that people say about James Franklin, all the little snide remarks that people say, old 10-2 James Franklin, all those things.
He's becoming the Mark Richt of the Big Ten there. But,
there you go, Mark.
Yeah, but he's doing his job though. I mean, it's okay to want more than that, but man, there's so many teams dealing with less. So.
Well,
okay, Greg.
They do have two very good edge players. So the offensive line coach you mentioned from the University of Oregon, John Connerly and Blake Fisher, the left and the right tackles, are going to be in for a test.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Bottom line. And yes, I have both of those guys as definite draft picks in the NFL. The left and the right tackle from Oregon State. Or not Oregon State, sorry, Oregon. Montel, you watch these kids. You prepare for the draft as well as I do. Are the left tackles this year anywhere near what they were last year?
Not in my opinion.
No.
Yeah, no,
Are the-
I
are
want to
the-
be
are
clear.
the-
I
are-
don't have.
Are the right tackles
Oh, go ahead.
anywhere near as good as they were last year?
Well, there's some guys. There's some guys. I mean, last year to me was just different because you had dudes that people have been talking about for the year previous. Like, oh man, look at
Right.
these players.
Just
Yeah,
came
this guy's
back,
really
right.
freaking good. You knew who was going to be good. This year I think there's some guys that are really good, really developmental. I think there's some guys that played pretty well so far this season. I got to dig into tape more before I give, I guess, a final word on the class as a whole. But it's not nearly as top heavy as last year. I think you're going to find some guys that
There
are
it is.
definite starters, potential Pro Bowl guys, but the rest is going to be developmental and situation kind of dependent.
If mine be asked to like insert an asterisk here, Greg,
Mhm.
what will help the right tackle class is some of the guys that are left tackles now are going to be right tackles.
Oh, like
Yeah.
last year's Notre Dame left tackle who's now playing the right tackle position for the Chargers. Yeah, I'd like Joe Alt. Yeah, kind of like that.
There's going to be
But
some of those.
Yeah.
Three or four of those guys who are right now left tackles are going to switch.
Because here's the
That's
situation
probably
that we don't hear enough people talking about in the NFL.
Mhm.
TJ Watt comes at the right tackle. He doesn't go after the left tackle.
Right.
Aiden Hutchinson is the same guy.
Right.
These guys are attacking the right tackles now.
Right.
This positional quality that people talk about here is got to have a little bit of a new mindset here, because your right tackles need to be just as good as a left tackle has to be, thanks to the UNC's Lawrence Taylor, who attacked the left-hand side exclusively, because again, the left-hand side was always a weaker position than the right tackle was.
At one point, yes.
In our point, Bill. In our point. When we were watching football.
Right.
And the head slap was still allowed and all that.
When there was only 3 channels and we had to adjust the rabbit ears. I want to move on to the Big 12 before we get too bogged down. As much as I love the history and the X's and O's stuff, because we should do an X's and O's show. But yeah, back to Big 12. Yeah. The Big 12 has been fascinating to me this year for a bunch of reasons, right?
The last place Arizona State Sun Devils. That's what everybody said.
That was one of the reasons it's been so fascinating to me, is that almost everybody was wrong. I didn't say they'd be last place. I thought that was nuts. I thought they'd be 7-5, 8-4, maybe. Yeah. So they're better than I thought they'd be too. Mm-hmm. But almost none of the big names were right about the Big 12 conference this year.
No. I think as a whole they were written off. Arizona State was a team that I didn't think would come around like this, but they've done a good job. They play great football. I think they've gotten a lot of use out of their running game. They've got this. We got a running back with a very different skill set. I mean, Scatterman has some agility, some power to him. I mean, he's elusive somehow. At what's
he can punt.
Pounds.
He can right. He can throw. He can punt. He can catch. He should win the Paul Hornung Award probably. But I've been a fan of his since before the transfer. Right. In fact, he and I had a little exchange on Twitter via DMs because I was comparing him to all these running backs. He said, why are you only comparing me to white running backs? And I was like, you know what? I said I stand corrected. So I brought up some black running backs he reminded me of, and he seemed satisfied with that. But
who'd you give him?
So I said a supersized vanilla Brian Westbrook. But yeah, that's
it. That's the one right there, Bill. Wow.
Because he's going to test better than people think. People look at him and they think he's not.
Yeah.
Mark my words. Mark my words. When this guy jumps 38 inches and runs in the mid to low 4.5s, people will be like, "Ooh."
And a guy like that he's gonna shuttle pretty good too. Yeah.
He could be a 4.4 guy. He could play.
Maybe not 4.4, but he's not going to miss.
But I think he's inside of say 4.62 easily. Yeah, I feel
people who can run the 4.6s are going to be embarrassed. He's going to run the 4.5.
If he's really ready for the 40-yard deal at the combine, he can go 4.48. I think he could easily.
4.48 isn't crazy. I'm thinking more around 4.52, 4.53, 4.54. But I think his testing all around, 3 cone, all this stuff's all going to be way better than people expect.
And I bet you he's gonna be one of those guys that does everything. You know, some of these guys get scared of the combine. They just want to run the 40 and go home. I'm like, bro, what did you even come here for? Just do everything at your pro day and have them cheat on every drill for you. Then you're
What
gonna
was
come
that?
here.
What was that? 2 years?
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago now at the combine where none of the running backs did a 40. Remember that? None of
Yeah.
them.
Which is it's sad, and I think that's the thing too. And if you're the NFL combine people, you might start thinking, hey, let's go and get people that have something to gain
Right.
from running the 40, right? Or maybe
Right.
we have a conversation with you where it's like, hey, we're going to invite you, but are you actually going to do more than one drill? If you're not, you stay your butt at home. We'll just go and find someone from
Right. Well, come here for 6 hours on the first day for meet and greets, and then go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had this conversation mostly with myself, but also with like people I know who are like, get excited about or committed to, the combine is such a great tool. And I know like people like to take shots at it and, underwear Olympics, blah, 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 but it's still one of the few apples to apples comparisons you get to make, right?
Yeah.
I like watching tape as much, in fact, more than the next guy, probably more than most people.
Same.
But if you think that is giving you an apples to apples read on what one player is at one position versus another player is at one position, even when they play common opponents, they're not playing at the same point in the season. So there's no film never gives you an apples to apples comparison. It gives you a way of figuring out the things you think a player is good at, not good at, can work on, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
But it doesn't give you a read on talent. And I know people hate when I say that, but it doesn't.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just the one thing that bothers me is funny because, Brandon Allen was a big guy. Oh, they wanted to see me running my underwear at the combine. Well, cool. Now you're the backup to the guy that did, Breece Hall, right? Have fun. Have fun with enjoy that, right? Enjoy that. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. True.
So Bill, do you agree with Montel that Penn State beats Oregon?
Once again, I want him to be right. I really want him for several reasons. One is Penn State recruited my area, not me, definitely not me, but recruited several of my friends, including Keith Goganis, who went to Penn State and was an All-American there and got drafted by the Bills and played on a couple Super Bowl teams and then finished his career at Jacksonville when they became a franchise. And now is a coach. Shout out to Keith Goganis. But Penn State was one of the big-time schools that worked the Tidewater area, outside of the ACC schools, one of the first non-ACC schools to really work that area. So I just have to have something around respect for Penn State as a program. I'd love to, and I like James Franklin as a person, and I want to see him do well. I've followed him since his days as an assistant. It's just that I think mistakes decide this game, and who do I trust not to make mistakes?
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? Yeah, when I think about these two teams, and I think about a game that's going to be decided by mistakes, picking Oregon just feels like once again, you said, you're not a person who likes to wager, but if I were a betting person, it said, bet on the team that doesn't make mistakes. It's Oregon. It's a team you're going to go with. I really want Penn State to win this game for all the reasons we talked about, and it will sort of shut up some people about certain things that I've heard said, some of which are unfair about James. Some of which are fair. Some of which are fair, but some of which are unfair. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like Oregon does. When pressure situations occur, I think about what team seems to handle them better, and who's handled pressure situations better this year than Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, they were ice cold against Ohio State, and they played that one was down on the wire. So, yeah, I get it. I just think only thing why I figured that is it could work out good for everybody. Oregon can afford to lose, still be in the playoff, still very high. Penn State could kind of help themselves out a lot to an easy path of a win. Could be a little hot hand fallacy, right? I mean, maybe Oregon is due for one of those days,
Right.
But who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so which team do you think wins the Big 12? Is it going to be Arizona State or Iowa State?
I'm gonna take Iowa State. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm gonna take Arizona State. Usually, I would take Iowa State. I think they started out this year really rough, and they did battle and get back. I think Arizona State. I think they're confident, they're strong. I just like basically what they're able to do on offense at the end of the day. I've seen Iowa State's offense get stuck in the mud a few times, so We'll see. We'll see. I could be wrong.
If it's a rock fight, Iowa State wins it. But if I feel like the break point is like 24 points, right? If it takes 24 points to win, I don't like Iowa State's chances.
Really 20, Bill, but yeah, 24 is fine.
Iowa State has become Iowa this year, right? Where every game, if the under takes it, they win, right? They win all the games if it's the under. If it's over, if it's 41.5 or whatever is the over. If the over hits, then they lose. I'm going to agree. I'm going to say Arizona State, I think, makes a couple of big plays. I think they muddy it up and dirty it up early on, beat Arizona State up a little bit, and then Arizona State gets a couple of big plays, one right before the half, gives them a little pep in their step coming out of the locker room for the second half of the game. They find a couple more big plays, and then Iowa State, stages a comeback, but comes up a little bit short. I'd probably, 27, 20, 27. Yeah, like somewhere in there. The over hits, so they lose.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, Mr. Dillingham came home to Arizona State, and he made a huge difference. Bottom line.
All the difference.
Like what he did in the transfer portal and everything else has worked for them.
Yep.
But Iowa State, Matt Campbell, they did have those 2 bad games in a row.
Yeah.
But Matt Campbell, to me, was going to win Coach of the Year. Before those 2 losses, he would have easily.
Well, now it's the Kenny Dillingham Award this year.
It's Dillingham because so many people had Arizona State as being this failing program and everything else. Well, guess what? They're playing for the championship. And the game, of course, is in Dallas. I think Arizona State does beat Iowa State, and it's going to be like 30-24.
Oh, wow. Okay. For you have almost a shootout. Okay. Got it.
Well, if they score 30, it'll be probably 30-17. I'm going to throw that out there,
Yep.
Right. 47 points seems like it's about right.
Iowa State has 2 1,000-yard receivers. So
that is true. Yeah.
Don't forget that. They don't have Brees Hall back there in their backfield.
No, they do not. But shout out to Rocco Beck, Anthony Beck's very talented son, who will be watching more in the future. He's still growing into the role, but he has a lot of. First of all, mentally and physically tough. That's the first thing, right? He's a mentally, physically tough young man. He's got a better than average arm, and I think as he develops, he has a chance to be something.
And Boise State just went up 14-0. Oh, don't worry. I want this reminder out there for Brock. Just for Brock. Just every point Boise State scores tonight.
How much time we got left? Boise Scott, how much time left in the half? Or
2:35.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's yikes.
Yep. So Big 10, Big 12. We've done the ACC. Let's take a look.
We've got the big one, man, and that's the Texas Longhorns and the Georgia Bulldogs.
Well, I'm gonna start with you this time, Greg. I want to hear your thoughts because that's when I just look at that game. I'm not gonna say blowout exactly, but I could see this being a 2-touchdown game. I mean, Georgia has been inconsistent and frustrating even to watch this season, but they are talented. Tell me what you think happens.
Boy, this is going to be an interesting test because Georgia doesn't have their running back in Etienne. He's gone. Texas lost their running back, but this young man who has now been in there for the last couple of weeks, Mr. Winters, has all of a sudden had 150-yard games 2 straight weeks?
Correct. Yeah.
If Texas keeps the ball away from Carson Beck and the receivers for the Bulldogs, I think Texas does win by 14, 17 points. But if Quinn Ewers, whose ankle was so heavily taped last week, it wasn't even funny. If the Bulldogs do attack and put Quinn Ewers out of that game. Well, Archie Manning there has to come in, and he's only been used in the running game. It's going to be an interesting battle, right?
Yeah.
I think it comes down. I think it comes down to a test between Texas's offensive line and the front seven of the Bulldogs. If the Bulldogs' front seven can handle Calvin Banks and Cameron Williams, and get to Ewers, we got a whole different ball game here. But if that doesn't happen, I think it's going to be a long, long day for the Georgia Bulldogs. And Bevo is not allowed to come to Atlanta, so there's no 1,700-pound Longhorn going to be on the field in Atlanta. That's just terrible. But Uga will be on the sideline, of course. I'm not a huge Georgia Bulldog fan, but I love Uga. Uga is beautiful.
Okay.
Same. He's up there. As favorite mascot for me too. Absolutely.
So
who you got? Who you got at the end of the day?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be Texas. Probably 31-17.
Okay.
Convincing victory. To me, if Arch Manning ends up playing most of the game, whether he starts it or not, I think it makes it a closer game. I think Texas wins with either of those two quarterbacks, though. The only caveat is if Ewers plays the whole game hampered and then tries to do too much and creates, bad plays. That would be the one sort of caveat. That's the only way I could see them sort of losing is if their quarterback presses and tries to make plays that aren't there. They're good enough at literally every position. They don't have to do that. They just play your game. Georgia lives and dies off of big plays.
Yep.
And if you deny them big plays, you make them drive the length of the field, make them have 9, 11, 13 play drives. They're not going to have more than one or two of those, right?
I think there's good math that shows that Carson Beck will certainly throw a pick in one of those or two.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And
to me, the over-under is 2.
There was the guy this year who was being so hyped up for the NFL draft right up the hop, and I'm going, what for? Why are you talking about Carson Beck in the NFL at that level? Why?
Bill, we see it every year, man. He's a certain guy that's a certain height, and he's the wilderness.
Certain kind of haircut.
Oh, that's it. I forgot that Carson Beck's a white guy too. That's right. He's
a certain kind of white guy, right? Because they don't fall in love with Gardner Minshew, but and Gardner Minshew's going to be collecting game checks, long after the Blaine Gabberts of the world are gone. So when a guy with a certain haircut, certain height, certain whatever, goes out there and stinks it up, people find all these reasons to excuse it somehow. Carson Beck is going to have a nice 8 to 12 year career as a career backup, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for him in the NFL. But if you think he's going to be a long-term starter, I have news for you. I mean, he shouldn't be, because that means your team is going to be continuously plagued with the problems you've just seen. And shout out to my friend Donovan, who put me onto his high school tape. He threw a bunch of picks in high school too. This is nothing new. This is who he is.
He was only a 4-star recruit because of those picks. He wasn't a 5-star quarterback.
Yeah.
And it was because he threw interceptions constantly.
So we liked everything about him on tape in high school, but we had to go down the 4 stars because of the interceptions.
Because of all those interceptions, yes.
Gotcha. Not 3, not 2.
No, he was a 4. He
was a 4. Gotcha.
But again, if the guy was a brother, he'd been down to 2 to 3. He would have been.
And so that's the whole other show we're going to have to do someday, is about the scandalous and very much broken way that high school prospects are rated and promoted based on things that have nothing to do with how well they play football.
Yep.
Maddening.
I thought, bad decision making was a trait. It's just as much as height it can be on some level. So, but I agree with you though. this is just such a bad year to need a guy at quarterback. And I
Oh, we lost your voice there, Montel.
He should be back in a sec, hopefully.
and then
There we go.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
We
we
can
hear
hear
you
you
now.
now. Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, sorry about that. I was just saying that I really like the idea of picking Texas in this game. I don't think Quinn will press to do too much. That's just he's been very cool. You know, his profile has been I know the assignment, I'm going to execute. And I think people really undervalue that and what he's done when you weigh in the fact that he's hurt. You know, you want this overpowering Heisman level performance this year. I think the injuries he's battled this year, that's probably the why. But if you look at how he executes plays, how he avoids the negative plays, you know, I think this will be a game that highlights some of the things he does well. I'll just put it that way. I would take
Yep.
Texas to win too. I think it'll be a higher scoring game though on both sides, but I would pick Texas to win.
Okay, I avoided saying anything earlier because of what happened against Ohio State earlier this year. But yes, I agree that the Penn State Nittany Lions should beat Oregon, and it should be like a 27-20 win.
Okay. So we have the MAC and the Fun Belt, aka the Sun Belt.
Sun Belt.
Yes, I've always loved Sun Belt football ever since it existed. You know, I mean, it's one of the newer-ish conferences, and they're super fun to watch. I enjoy their games. They're sort of like the MAC of the South. You know, they have a lot of sort of similar qualities. The games are almost always compelling. The team that's 2-8 fights tooth and nail and sometimes beats the team that's 8-3. I mean, it happens a fair amount of times with their games. So I'll start with you, Montel. With the MAC, who do you like in the MAC and why?
Who we got this year? It's gonna be what two teams are you guys got?
Well, let's see. Is it Northern Illinois and let me see.
No, it's Louisiana and Marshall.
That's right. Well, no, that's the Fun Belt.
That's right. That's Fun Belt. Sorry.
The MAC is it NIU and not Western, but hold on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure before I mean, I can take a quick peek here. Ohio and Miami, Ohio.
Miami, Ohio. Right. So it's we talk about it's a rivalry game on top of it. That's fun.
Got the Battle of Ohio here. Yeah.
Battle of Ohio, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I think Miami, Ohio has a little bit of momentum here. I think they've been playing some good football lately. I think they've also been making some noise on a recruiting trail, which is interesting.
Yep.
I like the coach they have there. I like the things they're doing. I'm going to pick them to win this game. Also, it's almost like a trivia question. I couldn't tell you when Akron, Ohio, or not Akron, when Ohio has won the MAC. It's been a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, Frankie Solich won it a couple times.
Yeah,
Frankie Solich won it a couple times there when he was there, and
Nathan Rourke.
I was going to say, right, including with the other Rourke brother, right? Yes, yes,
Hold
yes.
on 1 second.
The Canadian connection.
And his younger brother Curtis is now going to the East-West Shrine game. He's confirmed that.
Yep. And he should have a good week there. I think he's going to help himself.
Yep.
He's going to help himself. But yeah, I'm going to agree for two reasons. I like their linebacker group. I think they may have the best middle of the field defense in the whole MAC conference. And there are other ways to attack a team, but so much of what you want to do normally is in the middle of the field. And they're just so strong there. I think both offenses will get off, one or two big plays, but I just think the team that'll have the easier time consistently moving the ball will be Miami, and they're better at denying easy plays. They deny you the 4-yard play, the 6-yard play, the 7-yard play. Can you hit them with some deep shots? Yes, but that's harder to do. They're going to deny you a lot of those screen plays and a lot of those inside zone, outside zone plays that you don't normally get 4, 5, 6 yards on. They're going to stuff them. you'll get 0-2.
And they'll stuff you on a jet sweep as well and things like
Yep.
that. They will stone you on the defensive front. They will stone you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I think Ohio's offense, I mean, they've had a heck of a year, but I think they're prone to kind of sputtering out a little bit. Particularly their quarterback has struggled this year too. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how that comes into play. Like, I want to say that guy, I mean, I don't think he's thrown 10 touchdowns. I don't know, but yeah, Ohio's quarterback struggled in several games that I've seen. And yeah, I think it'll be close.
Yep.
But I think Miami wins this one, and they'll get a couple turnovers, at least one for sure.
Right. Yeah. And these teams obviously know each other very, very well. In games like that, you do see a lot of, because they know each other so well, which team figures out, the tendency breaker, which team figures out, how to find that big play, despite the fact they kind of know all your favorite stuff to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Greg, it's Fun Belt time, baby. Sun Belt time. Now you can give us more.
Now I can do Louisiana and Marshall. Yeah.
Shout out to our friend Emory Hunt, former running back standout back when Louisiana was called by its previous name. But this is a good program, right? They've been a good program, but I just like Marshall so much. Shout out to Charles Huff, who I think is one of those coaches on the rise. And if I'm North Carolina, I'm at least making a call. I'm at least making a call, checking it out. I know they want a bigger name, but I think
hey, they've already got their name. Come on now, they went to Belichick, and that's going to be it. That's it. It's going to be. Are you kidding me?
Well, it's not. They can't draft. It's not. It doesn't work that way with coaches, Greg. So just because
that's true. That's true.
you got to. He has to consent. Consent is key. But I'm just saying he'd be on my list if I were making a list and I'm Carolina. I'd have Charles Huff on my list. I think he's a really smart, able coach who gets it done different ways, right? When they're good at passing the ball, they pass the ball. When they're not as good as passing the ball, they run the ball. Like, it sounds simple when you put it that way, but we've seen coaches not figure that out.
Very true.
So I like Marshall in a close one. Once again, I think it's like a 3-4 point game. I'll say 24-20.
And Michael DeSormo deserves a lot of credit at Louisiana as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did the French pronunciation for you. Don't worry.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be one of the better, like in terms of compelling back and forth. It'll be one of those. I think it'll be one of the better games. I think that's a game that'll be close all the way throughout the game.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I like what Marshall has on offense. I like the running back and the quarterback. Braxton's played really good. So
yes.
I'll take them too. I think it's going to be a close one, and I think this one's going to be a little bit more high scoring too.
I've got Marshall winning this 34-31.
Woo! Okay, that's fun.
I like it.
I'm just going to whip really quickly a little bit through the FCS playoffs, which I know not everybody is super into, but I am, especially this year. Because it's a really good, like the pairings. Like, I know that some of it you can't control who wins what game and things like that, but they've done a good job. Shout out to the whatever they call the people who do this, bracketologists or whatever the term is. They've done a really good job this year. They've set up some really nice, some fun matchups, and most of the games have been have been compelling, interesting games thus far. I'm super excited tomorrow about North Dakota State and Abilene Christian. I know everyone thinks North Dakota State's going to win, and everyone's probably right. But don't be surprised if Abilene Christian makes it tough. They've got, I would say, 2 to 5 NFL prospects, 1 or 2 of whom I think could even get drafted of their own. And of course, North Dakota State is North Dakota State. They got dudes. Mercer, Rhode Island's going to be fascinating. Mercer has that sort of I don't know, air option. I don't know what the term they use. That option, but we throw the football.
Option-ish. Yeah, classic.
Yeah, whatever term you want to use to describe it.
Yeah.
Sort of similar to that, like Jerry Kill offense that he ran when he had Diego Pavia. A little bit like, a little bit of that. But it's a fun offense, and it's going to be interesting to defend. Rhode Island has a kid named Silver, who's a defensive end / outside linebacker that thinks he'll play at the next level. Montana State, UT Martin. You've got Touchdown Tommy, a guy who's a permanent finalist as long as he's in school for the Walter Payton Award.
Yep.
Last year, this year, and I guess next year. I think he has one more year of eligibility. And then the most interesting one to me, and also the one that's most likely to maybe turn to a blowout, Lehigh and Idaho. Now, Lehigh is one of the older football programs. They've been playing football, I think, for 134 years or something like that. I know they're one of the first 20-something college football programs. Lehigh's ancient.
They were there at the beginning. They were there.
Right. Well, the oldest program.
Yeah.
They have not had a lot of FCS playoff success, however, for those who are counting along at home. Idaho has been in and out of the FCS as those who've been once again scoring at home. Though they're a couple years removed from being an FBS program, when you look at the size differential between those two programs, it is still it is visibly different. They're visibly different looking programs, and so I am fascinated by this game, but I'm a little worried by this game. If Idaho just keeps it simple, they should be able to win that game by 3 scores. For Lehigh to have a chance, one is they have to hit all the opportunities for big plays. They can't miss one. They can't overthrow somebody or have somebody miss a cutback lane, or they got to hit. You can't slip or hold or on a big play. Like, you got to get all of them. And they've got to survive just the size and power of Idaho. But those are games I'm really fascinated by how those games turn out.
It's now 21-0 for Boise State, and the man, Ashton Genty, 14 carries, 132 yards, 75 yard was his longest run here. I don't care that Travis Hunter plays 2 different positions, kids. I really don't. Yes, he's good at both.
He's very good. But
I'm telling you, this Ashton Genty is a fine player in his own right.
Yeah.
I think the in his own right part is the part that's being debated, but I absolutely 100% agree. I think he's got the highest PFF rushing grade, I think, like ever. So
he's ridiculously good. He's a really good running back. I'll whip through.
The broken tackle thing that PFF came out with a few years ago is something that I believe in, which is one of the very rare times that I agree with PFF.
Yards created, kind of. Is that what you?
No, it's the broken tackle.
The tackle, right? The avoided and broken tackles.
Yeah.
Right.
And Ashton Genty's had 115 of them. I mean,
oh wow.
Yeah, he's just been remarkable.
Right. Basically, 10 times a game, he either runs through a guy or makes him miss. Is basically what they're telling you.
Yeah.
Another game that fascinates me because of contrast in styles and contrast in everything is Incarnate Word, right? Still good even without Cam Ward. Versus Villanova. South Dakota State, Montana. Good old-fashioned, pure, unvarnished hate in that game. Another sort of unfamiliar matchup is UC Davis and Illinois State, and they play, once again, very different brands of football. I'll interesting how that turns out. Another contrast in styles game is Tarleton State versus South Dakota. South Dakota, like Big Sky schools, they're big. They have a little bit of speed at certain positions, but they're mostly plotters at most positions, but they will just beat your brains in along the line. They want to wear you down. They want to lean on you. And then Tarleton State, once again, that's a couple of dudes I think are play at the next level. But they're mostly smaller guys, both on offense and defense. It is literally like a dart versus sledgehammer kind of game. Tarleton State versus South Dakota. I'm interested in that one. The team I'm sort of circling. Watch out for an Incarnate Word to maybe find its way out of that side of the bracket. I know people don't think that they'll manage it, but I just have a feeling about Incarnate Word. And then obviously, South Dakota State's ridiculously good. Most people just sort of are penciling in North Dakota State, South Dakota State. And I get it, right? They're both such dominant programs. I just have a feeling that it doesn't work out that way this year.
That could very well be the case, Bill, because I mean these other schools are they're just as good. And on any given Saturday, so it's supposed to be any given Sunday. I'm sorry, but any given Saturday because it's a college game,
right?
Anybody can go down.
Yep. And once again, especially if you don't blow a team out, like I know people don't like blowouts, but the reason that coaches like blowouts is it gives you margin for error. Now you can start playing other guys. You can get some of your starters out. You don't have to. You're not playing on a razor's edge of pressure. I get all of that. So some of these teams are going to try to get to blowout, as fast as possible. There'll be one or two blowouts. And once again, the one I'm circling is probably Idaho Lehigh. But some of those teams, that's why, right? That's why they're trying to get 3-4 scores up as quickly as possible, because you don't want to have to play a nail biter, red knuckle, white knuckle, down to the end of the game.
Yeah.
So before we close out, I'm going to ask two things. One, Montel, is there a player? I know you're early on in your prospect study. Is there a player that you want to sort of put your name beside that most people aren't high enough on? People are just way low on this guy in your mind, and they should be higher. And then conversely, is there a player that people like way too much that the Raiders going to be revealed to be sort of fool's gold?
Interesting. I think that's a good question. All right. Well, I think in terms of the player that I think people are a little bit too high on, this is very easy. So I think people need to kind of sell the Jalen Milroe stock. I think it's time to be lower. I've been warning people casually on Twitter for at least a month now. I even said before the Oklahoma loss, I said if someone has him mocked in the first round, unfollow the source. That's misinformation. Do not allow people to tell you, not just the first, but some people haven't had him in the top 10. I think only after the Oklahoma loss did they say, okay, maybe we'll put him in at 38. We'll drop him down to 38, which of course is striking distance. So,
I don't think Jalen Milroe comes out for this year's draft. I don't think he does.
Well, I would say this: if I'm Kalen DeBoer, I'd let him know that he. Well, I don't know who he's got in the hopper, but I know he's got a recruit coming in with a $1 million NIL valuation.
Yes,
so
correct.
I would make a conversation. I'd make it a point to have a conversation with Monroe. Is that if you don't want to declare, that's cool. But this guy is our priority next year. He's probably going to beat you in camp, and I'd rather spend the next couple of years developing him than letting you run it back and then look for a job the following year. So, I think, and the kid is a really good player too, 5-star guy. I think he's from Texas. He's got these very tools that he can be a player. But anyways, I think Jalen Milroe is a guy. He's in his own right, toolsy. I think he's got the physical traits a lot of people like. He has a physique. The funny thing is, when he was younger, a couple years, maybe a year or so ago, he even looked even more chiseled, more rocked up. And I think over the last year, maybe he put on more muscle mass or something like that. But his body does look a little different. He was built almost like a Olympian, in terms of his 6% body, like that's the way he looked, So I don't know how he's been training or what he's been doing. It probably works good in his own respect, but on the field, I think he has to be able to make more nuanced reads. He has to be able to make them quickly, and he's got to take care of the ball. He's got to be able to sense pressure better. I think sometimes you get you tackle on the blind side, he gets beat, you get hit, that's fine, but not being able to sense that front side pressure, that is a different matter. That's something you have to see. That shortens careers when you don't see that. So, I think that's the guy people are a little bit too high on. Someone that people should be higher on, I think, in this class with everything that's going on, I think people should be higher on Shedeur Sanders. I think when I watch him play, it's weird. There's this cycle where it's like, at the beginning of the season, he's overhyped, and then he gets humbled, loses a little bit, and then they go on this heater, right? And then all of a sudden you see a 8-9 win Colorado team, and I like Shedeur. I think. I like him in the sense that there's traits to his game that translate very well to the NFL. I don't know who has that, CJ Stroud type stealing where he comes in, leads you to the playoffs, and then dates celebrity that same offseason. Like I don't know if that guy is in this class. Seriously, I mean, CJ Stroud made me rethink how I evaluate. It's not just all pro Pro Bowl; it's all pro Bowl, and then dating, really famous celebrities. So, that's a whole new category. But anyway,
okay, Terry Bradshaw married JoJo Starbuck, who was a very famous ice skater.
Right.
Okay.
Matt Leinart did. He might not have been great on the field, but Matt Leinart was scoring.
Matt Leinart,
he won off the field pretty good.
Well, that's typical for that crowd out at USC. They're all like that. But those fight on characters don't amount to much outside of Marcus Allen. That's the only Trojan I have a lot of love and respect for is Marcus.
Really? No love for Bruce Matthews?
Bruce Matthews was, but he got stuck in Houston for so long, right? I mean, he was stuck there. And the Houston Oilers back then weren't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Understood. And, and even Tyron Smith, I mean, yes, he had a great career for the Cowboys, but he was always hurt for 8 straight years, and that was enough. So, yeah, it's Marcus Allen for me as far as the Trojans go, because, of course, I am a Fighting Irish guy, so I can't have much respect for the Trojans.
Understood.
Understood. Yeah. So
but
I like. I was going to say I like Shedeur. I think he's a great talent. I think he's a guy. Just watching some of his stuff, he seems more of like a. We make the poor class. Like kind of comparison. I see a rich man's Teddy Bridgewater there.
There we go. That's exactly my comparison too.
Yeah,
I said swaggier. I said swaggier.
Yeah, with more drip. That's kind of
right.
too. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater with more drip. I think I even tweeted that. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater more drip. He's a rich man's, wealthy man's.
He's a very wealthy man.
Teddy Bridgewater.
He's Gucci slides. Teddy Bridgewater.
Exactly. There you go. So that's what I've got for those two guys. Yep.
Sure. Of course, I don't like doing player comps, right? I just don't. Because obviously Shedeur Sanders is his own individual, and any other player you want to compare him to was their own individual, right? That's my whole. So I don't like doing the comp thing very, very much. My player that's been underrated is a defensive tackle. Dominic Orange from Iowa State.
Oh yeah, that kid's good.
Oh my Lord. And I mean, he's only a junior, so and again, what people don't understand about this draft is you have to give it 3 years to succeed. Okay, that's the guideline. 3 years. Mm-hmm. So don't expect Dominic Orange to come out into your football field and dominate anybody. Defensive tackles take 3 and 4 years to get developed in this league and all that other.
Well, especially the kind of D tackle he is. He's the kind of guy that, I mean, I'm not going to say Vince Wilfork because he's probably a little closer to the old gravedigger Gilbert Brown, right? A little closer to that.
He's a much closer to Gilbert. Yeah.
Yeah, a little closer to that. But
if you want to compare players in their body types and things like that, that's Gilbert Brown.
Playing style, body type. Type. If you're looking for a guy who can not just eat blocks, which he does, but he can even shoot a gap every now and again. Like if you tell him to quote unquote get skinny, in air quotes, get skinny, he can do it. I mean, he's got those nimble sort of dancing bear, whatever you call it, ballerina feet, whatever. He can actually move a little bit. So yeah, I like him too. My guy is Sean Derrick Powell, who is a tremendous running back. And yeah, he's an FCS running back, but if you drop him, if he went to Alabama, he'd be their best running back. I'm sorry. I've seen Alabama's running backs, and Sean Derrick Powell's better. Just be mad if you want to, but go watch him. Go watch him, and then come back to me. I think that kid's terrific. And, I mean, not to pile on Carson Beck more, but here we are. I also saw people putting him in the first round, and it just bothered living daylights out of me. But when will we learn? Stop just putting guys in the first round because they look a certain way and went to a certain school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop taking so many of these guys later in the draft because they also went to that school.
Hello. That's another. See, now we're getting political here. Whoa. I agree with you.
You don't know how painful. You don't know how painful it was last year with being on with Jeff and Bill for Draft Central on day 2 and 3 of the draft. How many damn times I had to hear some other player from that school up north being drafted again. These guys are all a bunch of bums. What?
I'm with you. Shoot, I mean, I had to watch Greg Dortch go undrafted, right? And then I
Which is
had to watch
crazy.
the Jets cut him to
Yep.
elevate Braxton Berrios. Are you kidding me? Look at what Dortch
Oh,
is doing right now in Arizona.
you mean Spanish Cole Beasley?
Yeah,
Yeah. Spanish
yeah.
Cole Beasley.
So to me, it's like, I mean, look at what Dortch is doing now, and look at what Berrios is doing now. You know?
Right.
Like, so
Right.
yeah, I'm with you. It gets, you know, some of these schools and these agents, it's just, you know,
It gets funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Some funny business out there.
yeah.
Montel, before you go, tell people where they can follow you, what you're working on, where they can find your work, and all that cool stuff.
Sure. So, yeah, for sure. Thanks again for having me, Greg, Bill. It's been a pleasure. I really hope we can do this soon. I'm freeing up. Yeah, some things have been really busy the last few months. We'll have to chop it up. But anyways, some things that, well, first off, you can reach me on Twitter at Montel, Montel NFL. That's where I am on Twitter. Some things I'm working on right now. So I am doing some draft evaluation stuff. I usually get into the thick of it in December. I'm doing some preliminary stuff now. This year, we'll see how many I can get to. I'm going to do a little bit more emphasis on metrics this year. So I'm going to look at some more production-related things, as well as the combine. You know, sometimes that spreadsheet is getting so big. Again, like once we started doing this, you know, 2014, Bill, you know, it's like it's really good, you know, to get 2014. Now I got 24 years of like combine data there. The Excel doesn't want to open up. It freezes when you know what I'm saying? There's things that I'm working on right now.
It's time to turn that into an actual database, Montel. You may have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Move on.
Exactly. So I'm working on some data related things regarding combine and that type of stuff. I'm going to look at, you know, some athleticism things too. And then some high school things going to the college level as well. I'm doing some writing right now for Bear Report, but, you know, I take some, not Bear Report, I'm sorry, Chicago Bears 247. So whenever I do stuff for them, it's usually assignment draft writing. That'll pick up probably in December, January, February time. And I'll, you know, break down those things. I'll make sure you guys know when I get those things posted, but you can always find them on my Twitter. Also, I do a little 7-on-7 coaching, scouting, that kind of thing. So I'm currently the D coordinator for a U18 team. We'll probably start next spring. It's really fun, laid back. I like 7-on-7 briefly, just to say, because it's a good experience. It's good to have some of the kids work on fundamentals things, and it's also good to have them get exposure. So it's fun to help the community and do those types of things. So that's what I'm working on right now. Like I said, I promise I'll keep you guys in the loop. And again, you know, we should definitely do this again sometime. It's been a pleasure with both you guys. I will be more prepared next time, I promise.
No worries there, Montel. Because this is the last college football forecast that we do this year, Bill. This is it.
We're not doing one for the wait a second, hold on, timeout. We're doing one for the playoffs, right?
Well, but that's not going to be a football forecast show. It's going to be like the typical four of us getting online and argument, right?
Yes, right.
We're not allowed. We're not allowed to bring up history on that one, Bill. Remember?
Right. Yes.
We're not allowed to talk about things that you and I do. Right. But again, the player that I think is overhyped actually are every single quarterback in this draft class. I'm sorry. This is another 20.
A box on all your houses.
Yeah, this is another 2020 draft. And please, NFL, stop getting into the hype train of having a quarterback, because guess what? You also need to play special teams and defense to win football games. It's ridiculous. The focus that's always on the court. I'm glad that there's no quarterback up for the Heisman Award this year.
Yep.
That should speak volumes right there.
It does.
And you know what? Someone's going to trade into the first to draft one of these guys. You know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Every team still has their own first round draft pick, which is an unusual situation here.
Mm-hmm.
Every single team has their own first round draft pick. Now, who's going to move up to get a quarterback is going to be the I don't see anybody needing to move up to get the quarterback right now, the way that the current draft.
The Giants are bad enough that they don't need to do anything.
The Raiders.
The Raiders are in position.
I don't know. A team could be frisky. The Browns. I mean, where do they have their first, right? And they're probably. I think they're probably, if they win one more, they might be out of range
Right.
there.
Right.
Maybe the
That's a
Browns.
good question. I frankly, I think they should build around Jameis, but
Yeah, I think the thing about him is just health. If he stays healthy, I'd absolutely endorse it. Yep.
And if he stops feeling like he has to prove himself every time he takes the field, which is unfortunately how it's been for him because he has had to prove himself every time he takes the field. But I don't know if there's a quarterback in this class who has the ceiling that Jameis already has. You know what I mean? Like, is there anybody in this class who thinks could get to Jameis? Right? I don't think so. Frankly,
No.
Yep.
I mean, the best quarterback in this class might be the swaggier version of Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, you got your rich men's, you got your Warren Buffett's Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Bridgewater, right?
I mean, I could see the Giants going after a veteran quarterback and avoiding a quarterback in round one this year. I can really see that happening. The Raiders are different. The Raiders are where Shedeur Sanders goes. I don't think that he's a first-round draft pick, but he goes to the Raiders.
I don't hate that. I don't hate it as a landing spot for him. And they need to
he'll have
but he's used to terrible offensive lines, but
but again, he's going to have to understand how to throw to a tight end because he doesn't use one at Colorado. He's going to have to learn how to throw to Brock Bowers.
Well, Brock Bowers is a tight end in name only anyway, but I know what you're saying. But I got it.
And it's like the NFL mock draft I did this week for the Cowboys. They were picking 13th. San Francisco offered to move up one spot because they wanted Mason Graham. Okay, you can have them. I still got Ashton Genty, the 14th pick in this draft. And then I made two other big trades with Miami and the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Cowboys have 16 players coming to camp, baby. It was Captain Trade Down. It was beautiful.
Greg, you are different from other people, and that's why I love you. So, once again, it is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to do this show. Montel, we'll have a round table of some sort, probably between now and the new year, or maybe right after the new year, about the state of football. And I'll have to invite you and some other people, maybe even Alex if he has some time. But he's a busy man. But
that'll be our first Draft Central show, Bill. That'll be our first NFL Draft Central show.
There we go. We'll put something together. So keep an eye out, Montel. We'll definitely reach out to you. Everyone who's been with us throughout the season, can't believe it's coming to an end. But who's been with us throughout this season. This has been our best year yet in terms of viewership. So I thank all of you. We've been trending upward continuously in terms of number of people watching. I love doing this. That's why I do it, because this college football, I love pro football too, but college football is the middle point between high school football, which truly is amateur, right? It's for the love. You're doing it because you love it. And where it turns into a pure business. It is that weird middle spot where the two things fight each other to the death, right? Between all the things that people tell you football should be for about developing your mental and physical toughness and becoming an adult and all these other things, building character, and then the filthy lucre are all just out there just battling in the streets all day long in college football. And so it is a fascinating microcosm of everything about our society because of all the different things that go on in college football. Education is involved. Societal issues are involved. It's everything all at once. So that's why I love it so much. Everybody who's been with us, thank you so much for being with us on this ride. Greg, since you have the con, gentlemen, and when you are ready, you can click the button and we can say goodbye for a whole.
I will just say that tomorrow evening at 10:30 Eastern, the last word for the final time this year.
I'll be there.
We'll have Joe Cardoza, the owner of Team MBS Media, and Monty Perez as my two guests, since our good friend Mr. Jeff Barnes was inducted into the Minor League Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And so he will not be there.
He can't. He's putting on I don't know what color jacket it is. We put on that, whatever color jacket it is you put on.
Oh, he's got a beautiful suit on. He had a beautiful suit on. Yeah, he was looking good. And Montel, Bill, Jeff, myself and you, we all love defense. What's with that? I don't get that.
So two things. I grew up in an era when defense was sexy, right? I had to root for Washington because where I grew up, and then I was a free agent in terms of AFC teams, and I watched on September 17th, 1972, this fantastic game between
Steel Curtain
and the truly evil Oakland Raiders. And they were leaning into the evil thing in those days. I mean, they really literally looked like a biker gang playing football. And they would step on you, elbow you. I mean, name something. Twist unmentionable things on the bottom of a pile.
And Davidson and all these guys.
Bill Villapiano. Yeah, there was
these guys.
Skip Thomas. Yeah, George Atkinson, that whole bunch. I mean, when's the last time a defensive back had the nickname Dr. Death?
Dr. Death, exactly.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, I hear you.
And of course,
I think it's been a little bit more like I started learning offense first and did a lot of different things there, spread and different stuff like that at the youth level. And then, once I, got like into college and everything, I just like, well, it can't be this hard. You start looking at defense and all the yards you give up. It's like, what's going on here? And so I think later in my years at school, I grew a fascination with defense and defensive players because I'm like, what's going on here? But I think as you learn, it's kind of a microcosm of things, right? You have rules as you kind of deregulate what the offense can do. You then allow things to be tougher on the defense. Offense can score more points. Ratings also go up. So, different things there too. So, but yeah, it came from learning offense. And then I said, okay, well, let's just see, let's just, it can't be this hard. And that's how I got into a lot more of the defensive stuff. And then I said, well, it is this hard, and then, I guess I just enjoyed the challenge a little bit. Yeah.
And at the NFL level, it is very, very hard now to play defense. I mean, it is very, very tough.
Yeah, they don't want you to. They don't want you to win. They don't want you to be great on defense.
Yeah, they're going odd fronts and they're giving you the run. They're begging you to run the football.
Yeah. So. Well, and again, because of the too high safety, which has been around since the early 70s as well, kids. It's not a new defense.
No.
It was around in the early 70s. And now you don't see these 380-yard and 420-yard passing games weekly in the NFL. And these kids who don't understand how the game is not any different than what it was way back when, well, you better get used to seeing some more defense being played.
Yep, exactly.
It is, and it's such an important part of this game. Mm-hmm. So you got it.
Yep.
All right then. So, Bill
on behalf of Team MBS Media. Go ahead, Greg.
This is the last time for this year that we do the college football podcast. Oh, yes, this is it.
Yes, thank you, Greg Rector. Thank you to the absent but always in my heart, Bryce Nakamura Vieira.
His name is Brock.
Did I say Bryce?
Right. Yeah.
Did I say Bryce?
Yeah.
You know what? I heard that come out of my mouth. I don't know what happened there. Brock Nakamura Vieira. Thank you so much, my usual co-host. Thank you so much to my unusual co-host, Greg Rector. Thank you so much to our ultimate guest, the guy who put a bow on it for us, Montel Hardy, because there ain't no party like a Montel Hardy party, because the Montel Hardy party don't stop. Ladies and gentlemen,